All right, so let's jump into this Tom Hanks podcast. I'm excited to get started, and it looks like someone might be behind you waiting for a cab or something. I can't tell.
Oh, that's Tom Hanks.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I forgot we invited him over. Hello and welcome to the Real World Podcast, episode 21. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Real World YouTube channel. Be sure to give us a like, hit that subscribe button down below. Also, hit the bell to get notifications of all our videos here at the Real World. If you're a movie fan, if you know of other movie fans, they're all sure to get a lot out of this channel. So be sure that you subscribe, and we would greatly appreciate the support. We're now over 100 subscribers, on our way to 200. And thank you so much, everyone who listens each and every week. We really appreciate it. Today on the Real World Podcast, we're talking about the best Tom Hanks movies. So Tom Hanks is an actor we both like, so we wanted to go ahead and break down our top 5 favorites of his. I'm joined again by Bert. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good. What's happening?
Doing good. Thanks. Thanks for joining us again. And so yeah, this should be a fun one. All right. Well, before we jump into top 5 Tom Hanks movie lists that we have, we wanted to discuss some movie news that dropped this week. And so the first bit of news that I thought was interesting just broke a couple days ago was the fact that Sony announced that they are making a new Karate Kid. They're going to make a new Karate Kid movie. Now, they haven't announced the cast or even the director or anything about it.
In the midst of Cobra Kai. Now, is Cobra Kai, that's not part of Sony, is it now?
It's not. So it's a
Yeah.
weird thing where,
Yeah.
Cobra Kai it was started as actually a YouTube show, and now
Right,
it's over at
right.
Netflix.
Hmm.
So Netflix now owns the rights to Cobra Kai. So someone asked one of the creators of Cobra Kai if he was involved in this new movie, if it's going to tie in somehow. And he said no, he has no involvement. He doesn't know what this movie is. He doesn't know if it will tie in or how it will tie in. So this is just a curious, kind of odd decision where, I mean, it makes sense because this Cobra Kai show has just exploded.
Yeah.
It's now on
Who would
their
have thought?
they're on their 5th season, and
Hmm.
so it makes sense that they would want to continue the franchise in the theaters as well. But
Right.
supposedly, it's the producers of the show are not involved, so I don't know what their thinking is. If they are going to bring
Yeah.
those guys in, or if I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, I get why the studio does it. Like from a fan perspective, it's like, why not just make a new movie and call it something else and a whole new story?
Yeah,
But what they want is a little bit of built-in audience or people that are curious of does this tie in?
that's right.
So
That's
I think
exactly
it's
right.
gonna
Which
happen
is
some
why,
way.
to me, it would
Yeah.
make more sense to bring those guys in because that
Yeah,
show
even
is
if the
just so
tiniest bit,
popular.
people will
Yeah,
show up, even if it's the tiniest bit, people like that
right.
kind of
If there's
stuff.
some kind of little
Yeah.
connection, people will be
Hmm.
into it. So, but they've
Yeah.
already given it a release date of
Oh,
June 7th, 2024.
okay.
So, they've got a full year, a little over a year to make this happen. So, we'll just have
Yeah.
to wait and see. Have you watched what is your experience with the Karate Kid franchise and Cobra Kai? Have you watched all of them or
I've seen all the movies.
okay.
I think I've are there 3 or 4 movies?
Well, there's 3 with Ralph Macchio, and then there's one with
Yeah.
Hilary Swank, and then
Okay.
they did a
Yeah.
reboot with Jaden Smith.
Oh, with Jaden Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, Jackie
Well,
Chan.
honestly, I can tell you that I liked all 5 of those movies.
Okay, okay,
I'm not saying they're all great, but
sure.
even the one before Jaden,
Yeah,
the next
next
Karate Kid,
Karate
I think
Kid.
it was called.
The next
Yeah,
Karate
I
Kid.
saw
Yeah.
that. Someone took me to wanted to see that in the theater, and I actually thought it was
Okay,
decent.
okay.
And then the one with Jaden, I thought was pretty good. Kind of
Yeah,
a nice little reboot.
sure.
So I liked all the movies, and then Cobra Kai, I actually like quite a bit, but unfortunately, it's gotten kind of lost in the shuffle because in between seasons, there it kind of got bumped by a bunch of movies. So I
Okay,
haven't gone
gotcha.
back to it, but I
Okay,
think I got through season 2,
okay,
enjoyed it.
okay. Yeah,
A lot of
cool.
nostalgic moments. I don't know how much I would like it if not for that.
Sure, sure. Did you see Karate Kid in the theater? The first, you said you saw the fourth one. Did you see the first 3, or was that on video later?
Okay, the first one, no, but
Okay.
2 and 3, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Oh,
Cool.
yeah. Hmm.
Great. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the whole franchise too. I
Oh,
think
okay. Yeah.
I think they kind of start to fall off. Like the third one, it starts second and third, and then the fourth I
Yeah.
was didn't
Yeah.
like quite as much.
Sure.
The reboot I did
Right.
enjoy. They should
Yeah.
have
Yeah. I
called it the
liked it.
Kung Fu Kid. I know they wanted the name recognition, but he doesn't do karate in
Oh,
that movie at all. So it's kind of weird that it's
is
called
that
Karate Kid.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So, but
See,
Jackie
that's
Chan's
the
great.
name recognition they want,
Right.
right?
That's right. That's what we were just talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm a fan of Cobra Kai.
Mhm.
I've watched every season. I just started the fifth
Mhm.
season the other day,
Okay.
actually. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where they take this whole thing.
Yeah, me too. That sounds like I don't blame them for putting out another one. Let's put it that
Right.
way.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm curious to see what the talent is that they get involved.
Maybe
All
they'll
right.
bring
So,
Keanu in.
yeah, exactly. Right. It's funny you should bring up Keanu because now we're going to talk about a long-awaited sequel to a Keanu Reeves film which was just announced this week, which is Constantine. So
Oh,
his
right.
DC kind of, supernatural anti-hero character that he played way back in
Hmm.
2005 is
Right.
finally getting a
Is he coming
sequel.
back?
Yeah, yeah, they're actually going to bring back
Okay.
Keanu and the director
Okay.
Francis Lawrence, who I know
Shia LaBeouf?
from Shia LaBeouf. I haven't heard about him. I'm not sure about him.
Probably
Doesn't
not.
he die in the original? I want to say he
Oh, I
died in
can't
the first
remember.
one.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not sure what other cast members are involved. I know
Uh-huh.
that Francis Lawrence is involved. I like him from I Am Legend. Directed that. He
Oh,
did
yeah.
the
Yeah.
Hunger Games sequels. He did all
Okay.
those. So he's a good
Interesting.
director. I like him a lot.
Hmm.
And then they brought in to write the screenplay is Akiva Goldsman, who's a prolific
Oh,
writer.
yeah.
He's been in
Yeah.
Hollywood for a long
He's
time. He's
done all
written
kinds of stuff.
a
Yeah.
bunch of different right. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
varied filmography, everything from Batman Forever to A Beautiful Mind. I mean, this
Beautiful
guy's
Mind. Yes. Is the one I
yeah,
thought of. Yeah.
right. He's done
Yeah.
a
Right.
lot.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, those guys are involved. J.J. Abrams is producing.
Okay.
So we've got a good team, together
Yeah.
for this sequel.
And you
Um,
like the original, do you?
I am a big fan,
Oh,
actually,
you're a
of
big
this
fan.
movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a pretty
Okay.
big fan of this movie. I've only seen it once,
Mm.
fairly recently. I want to say I watched it maybe a
Oh,
couple years ago for the first
okay.
time, but it's streaming right now on
Yeah.
HBO Max, and I'm gonna
Sure.
give it a rewatch because I do remember enjoying it. It is
Uh-huh.
dark. It
Yeah.
deals with all that supernatural stuff that the character in the comics always deals with. But I
Oh.
remember enjoying Keanu's performance and
Mm-hmm.
the whole look of the film.
Yeah.
It's older, so some of the CG isn't quite up to
Yeah.
snuff.
That's what I was
But
gonna say.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I
So
like the movie. I've seen it two or
yeah.
three times, but it's been now
Hmm.
probably 10 years since I've seen it, so I
Okay.
forget some of the plot details,
Right, right,
but it is one I like. Yeah, but I do remember the CG being a bit, it's just a bit much. I don't know if it's
right.
bad, it's just a bit much.
A little overdone. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I like you said, for as far as casting goes, I am curious because I really like Rachel Weisz in it. I think she's excellent. She's
Yeah,
excellent in
she's one of my
everything.
favorite actors. Yeah,
I
she's awesome.
agree. And Tilda Swinton is in that one too. So
Oh, with hair?
yeah, right. With hair, a little bit of hair in that one. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Right.
So yeah, I'm curious to see if they bring any of them back or not. I don't know. Again,
Right.
no plot details, nothing much, but
Right,
kind of
right.
behind the scenes team. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's a sequel I'm definitely looking forward to.
Yeah.
In other sequel related news, Blade Runner, the Blade Runner franchise is getting a continuation, although not in movie form. This is going to be a series on Amazon Prime,
Oh,
and it
okay.
is titled Blade Runner 2099.
Okay.
So the sequel is 2049. So that's
Hmm.
30 years after the original. This one's going to jump another 50 years into the future.
Okay.
So it'll
They like to
be,
do that,
yeah,
Amazon.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it probably won't feature any of the characters we've known before.
Right.
Although Ridley Scott is coming back to produce. So
Oh, okay.
that's a good sign.
That is a good
Um,
sign. Yeah.
yeah, so we don't know anything about the story, anything about the cast or anything. It was
Hmm.
literally just announced. But look, I mean, Amazon Prime, they've impressed me greatly with this Rings of Power show. We just watched the
Yeah.
fourth episode the other night, and it is
Yeah.
just outstanding. I mean,
Really? So it's still
yeah,
I haven't kept up on it since the
okay,
first two, but
yeah,
it's still been pretty high quality.
yeah. I think it's very high quality. I mean,
Good.
the budget
Good.
on this thing is just like we talked
Yeah.
about being the highest,
Crazy.
biggest budget of any
Yeah.
series ever.
Billion
So
dollars. Yeah.
hopefully they keep up with that kind of quality with Blade
Right.
Runner because Blade Runner needs it. I mean, it's
I'm
all set in the
sure.
future and
Uh-huh.
lots of CGI. I know you still haven't watched Blade Runner, have you?
I'm behind on this series.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't watched either Blade Runner.
Okay.
But I will say I don't think there's nearly the amount of fan base with Blade Runner as there is, but you still got the name. People have heard of it.
Right. And the thing about Blade Runner is, it's one of those cult films where it kind of bombed when it
Yeah.
came out. No one really saw it, didn't
Right.
make any
Right.
money. And over time on video, just
Hmm.
the fan base grew and grew. It became one of these cult
Yeah.
classics. So
Right.
Now the fan base is bigger, but I mean, I was looking at Blade Runner 2049. It barely broke even when it came out. So
Yeah.
it's kind of surprising that they keep going back to it. Again, I think because there's such
Right.
the fan base is so vocal about it. You
Uh-huh.
know, those of us who really like Blade Runner are really into it and into this world
Yeah. Yeah.
that was created. So I think that's why they keep kind of trying to, let's see if we can make it work. Maybe if it's a series, it'll work better. I don't know,
Right.
but
Right.
as a fan, I'm super glad they keep going back to it because I just enjoy that world, that whole story, and the whole thing. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
curious, very curious about it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they launch it forward by 50 years. So I mean
Yeah,
that'll be a good excuse then to go back and watch the films. I mean, I've wanted to do it. It's just
yeah.
my watch list is just nuts. I mean, it's
I
just
know, I know. Same here. Yeah. Well, we'll have to if it once they make the series, we'll have like a Bert's review of Blade Runner
that sounds good.
and do
Yeah.
that whole series
Is
on the
Blade Runner
channel.
good in 2022?
Right, there you go. Exactly. All right, another piece of news here that broke was a video game adaptation. This is a video game I've played because I had an uncle who was big into these games. They're called Gran Turismo.
Oh, the
So
racing game. Yeah.
these are the racing games, exactly. The
Okay. I
racing
haven't played
games.
those particularly, but
Yeah, yeah, they're pretty fun. They're very real and very like it's
oh,
supposed to
okay.
make you feel like you are in one of these cars, basically.
Gotcha.
So they're doing a movie adaptation starring David Harbour from Stranger Things,
Oh.
and Orlando Bloom was also cast
Oh,
in this film.
okay.
So I don't know if there's a director attached yet. I didn't see anything about that. So it's still early days. They're working on it, but maybe this will be the first good video game movie.
Well, I mean, I don't know about first video game in general. I mean, there's been
That's
some good
true.
ones. Like you
That's
mentioned
true.
that one recently, the World of Warcraft, right? You said
Yeah,
that
the
was good.
Warcraft movie was cool.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if I thought about it, think there's been one or two that have been decent,
Yeah, I did
but not a
actually
lot.
also like the recent Uncharted movie.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, with
yeah.
Tom
I
Holland.
really want to see that. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
him a
it's on
lot.
Netflix. You should check it out.
Yeah, it's like yeah, again, I gotta put that in the front of the list because
Yeah.
I actually the only person I heard that saw it didn't like it, and I think it
Oh,
was on
okay.
the Facebook group maybe. It can't
Okay.
be.
Right. Right.
But yeah, then that's good to hear that it's not terrible.
Right. Right. Yeah, I enjoyed it. So yeah, there's a handful of decent video game movies, but I don't know there's ever been a really great one. So
Yeah, well
and
then there's been racing video games movies like the one Aaron Paul did, Need for Speed. I didn't see that
oh
one,
yeah, I didn't either.
but it didn't get a lot of great reception. I know
No.
that much.
Yeah, they don't usually do very well box office wise or critically. So I'll have to wait and see, I guess.
I wonder if gamers just think, why go to the movies when I can play it, right now.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think that's a great point. Yeah, gamers are not usually huge into movies, and so
sometimes, yeah,
yeah, adapting a game into a movie, it's a difficult task because it's so
yeah,
much more fun when you're playing it, and I
right.
think that's where it kind of gets lost on people sometimes.
Yeah, I play a little. The series
Yeah.
I usually go back to is Far Cry, and
Okay.
it came out with a movie in '06, and it's
Oh.
abysmal. And then
Oh,
I went
really?
back like a couple 2 3 4 years ago because I'm on on a Facebook group for that and people were talking about it. So
Yeah.
I'm like, well, maybe I should watch this again. It can't be that it's just abysmal.
It's still bad.
It's abysmal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad. All right, well, that's all I had for movie news, but I do want to cover some trailers that dropped this week. Some big movies dropped their first trailers, and it looks like some of these are going to be pretty good. So the first one I wanted to cover was Percy Jackson, hugely popular book series, which is kind of based in Greek mythology, kind of a modern take on Greek mythology. And there have already been two films, one called Lightning Thief, the other one called Sea of Monsters. They starred Logan Lerman. I like those movies. Have you seen
They are
those?
good. I have not seen either of those.
Okay.
No.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like them. I don't think they're the best, but if you want a
Hmm.
fun kind of, they're pretty family friendly movies to watch,
Yeah. It
they were
seemed like they
enjoyable.
looked like Prince of Persia. Am I wrong? Are they kind of similar feel?
Similar vibe.
From
Yeah.
the
Yeah. A
trailer,
bit
that's
of
what
a
it looked like. Yeah.
right, but more of a young adult spin on it. So maybe
Hmm.
more like Hunger Games mixed in with
Yeah. Yeah.
Prince of Persia, kind of that kind of feel to it. Like
Gotcha.
a young adult Clash of the Titans, maybe is a
Yeah.
good way to describe
Right.
it, right?
Gotcha.
But anyways, this new teaser dropped. It's a very short teaser trailer. We don't get a whole
Yeah, they
lot
don't show
from it.
us much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this is going to be a series. So this will be on Disney Plus. I believe next year is when they're planning on releasing it. And supposedly the author Rick Riordan was more involved with this one, and it's a little bit more true to his
Oh,
vision. So
okay.
that's always, good to hear. And the fans of the books, I've never read the books, but I'm sure the fans of the books will be excited to hear that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, what'd you think? I mean,
Huh.
I thought it was fine. It looked interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks interesting, but so short, and they give you so
Right.
little. I mean,
Right.
it's one of those really advanced ones.
Yeah.
And then you got series like what we were talking about one recently. I can't remember what it is, but it comes out like in 3 weeks, and they just dropped the first trailer. And it's
Exactly.
like when's
Yeah.
Percy Jackson next summer? So I don't
Yeah.
know why they decide these things like that.
I don't know either. I guess just to get people have been asking for one for because they've been developing this for well
Oh,
over a year,
oh,
and
is
they
that
announced
right?
it well over a
Okay,
year ago. So I think fans have just
gotcha.
been dying to see something that they're
Yeah,
like, all right, we'll put this little 50-second clip out, and
right,
it's
right.
fine. Walter Scoble is playing Percy Jackson. I don't know. Did you watch The Adam Project on Netflix with Ryan
Yeah,
Reynolds?
yeah, I
He's the
did.
kid in that.
Oh, the kid
Yeah.
in that.
So
Okay,
he's
yeah.
Percy
I think he was
Jackson.
pretty good. I think he
Yeah.
was pretty good from what I
I think
remember. I
I
like
think
that
he's a
movie a
good
lot.
actor. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think he's a good actor. He's funny, and I think this will be a
Uh-huh.
different role for him. I've
Yeah.
only seen him, he plays young Ryan Reynolds in that. And I thought he did a great job emulating Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
um the next movie I saw him in was one I didn't really like. My brother and I watched it. We reviewed it on the podcast a few weeks back. It's called Secret Headquarters
Yeah.
with Owen
Yeah.
Wilson.
I watched
And
that too. That was
did
bad.
you? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that was
didn't
bad.
enjoy it. I
Yeah. I
thought
mean, it wasn't terrible, but it just wasn't that good.
right. And I felt that the kid again, he was kind of playing Ryan Reynolds again. I felt he was playing kind of a similar role, kind of a snarky little kid,
Typecast as Ryan Reynolds. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
typecast as
You're
young
right. It
Ryan
was kind of
Reynolds.
like that. I
Right.
forgot he was the same kid from
Right.
yeah.
So this will maybe give him a chance to branch out a little bit, do something a little more
Right.
dramatic, not as silly. Yeah, I'm excited. See when that comes out next year. Okay, next trailer that dropped was Babylon. Babylon is the upcoming musical extravaganza
This is a
from
musical?
it is.
They
Yes.
didn't even like indicate that in the preview. I mean, like no one was
Yeah, that's
singing
true.
and
Well, now that you say that, see, I just assumed it was a musical because Damien Chazelle is doing it, and
maybe
he
it's
did
not.
La La Land.
Yeah.
He did, but he also, I mean, I guess not all of his movies have been musicals. He's done, Whiplash, which was great.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that definitely was not a musical. Well,
right,
although it had a
right.
lot of music in it, but you
Music
know what I'm
in
saying.
it, right? Yeah, you're right. This is not say it as a musical. It says it's an
Okay.
epic period comedy drama film.
Okay.
So yeah, I
Okay.
guess it's not a musical. But at times it looked like people were singing and dancing. Maybe that's why I
A
thought that.
lot of stuff going on in there, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
it's a busy trailer. So
Yeah.
I'm I'm not sure what to think about it. I don't know. I'm interested in it for sure because this filmmaker is just great. I mean, I talk about First Man all the time, which
Yeah.
is another movie he did with Ryan Gosling, which I think is stupendous. So
Yeah. Yeah. I
I'm
remember you talking about that.
yeah, I'm always on board for whatever he wants to do. This just seems like it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's I like the early Hollywood era, so
Right.
that's got me really intrigued. But it just seems like it's too much at times. I don't know. What were your thoughts on it?
That's exactly what I thought. It
Yeah,
doesn't look like something that I really be drawn to because I feel like some of those that are just like coming at you from all different things and you can't
yeah,
make sense of it. And there's
right.
just weird stuff you're seeing. And it just looked like a mishmash of stuff. And I don't have a
Yeah,
lot of hope for a movie like that. But
yeah.
I can tell you, I like to watch pretty much anything Tobey Maguire is in.
Oh,
Um,
he looks
um,
great in this.
there's
Looks
this
totally different.
Mart's in it, Jeff Garland. There's some other really
Right.
good talent in it too. So
Right.
I will no doubt watch it, but I'd probably wait for streaming for one like this because it just looks like one
Yeah.
of those that's going to try to throw a lot of entertainment at you without much substance. Hopefully, I'm
Right.
wrong.
Yeah. Sure.
That's what I got
Sure.
out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt similarly. So I've got a lot of faith in the director. The
Yeah,
trailer didn't quite do it for me, but it's got me intrigued at least,
right.
where I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah,
So,
and Brad Pitt's still making some courageous choices because he could play it safe, and I don't know,
yeah.
do romantic comedies or something like that for the rest of his career.
Totally.
But
Totally. That's totally
yeah,
true. Yeah, he's definitely taking risks. He's at the point in his career where he can do that. He doesn't have to
yeah,
play it safe. He can just do
right.
whatever he wants to do.
Yeah,
Whatever the next challenging role he has, he'll take on.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm just hoping I got a little bit of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood vibes, and I was
Yeah, and I
not a
didn't
fan
love
of
that
that.
movie. Yeah. Oh, yes. Same here. I did not. I watched the whole thing, but
Hmm.
I'm not a huge Tarantino fan anyway.
Yeah, he's hit or
And I
miss for
didn't.
me.
Right. There's a couple
Right.
good ones I can
Sure.
mention, but
Sure.
yeah, I didn't like that movie a whole lot. And I think
Yeah.
Brad Pitt was in that
He
as well.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
He
yeah,
did a good
but
role.
a lot of talent involved. Pitt, Margot Robbie, Tobey
Yeah, she's
Maguire, you
good.
mentioned. It's a huge cast of
Hmm.
great actors. So yeah. That comes out this Christmas in a limited release and then
Okay.
wide on January 6th. All right, next trailer. One I am extremely excited about. Huge fan of this filmmaker. I've liked every movie that he's done. Rian Johnson is directing and writing Glass Onion, which is a sequel to Knives Out. Knives Out, I'm a huge fan of. It's one of my wife's favorite movies. We've watched it numerous
Really?
times. Yeah,
Okay.
we both really, really enjoy that movie. And so this is a follow up. The only character returning is Daniel Craig as Benoit
Oh,
Blanc. So he's the
okay.
detective, the private detective
Yeah,
who's kind
yeah,
of sent to solve these murder mysteries that happen. So it's kind of
yeah,
an Agatha Christie modernized version of kind of
yeah.
her style of writing. And this trailer looks good. I mean, it looks like another fun, interesting murder mystery, a totally different location. We're on this, tropical island, totally different cast of characters. We've got Ed Norton in there, Dave Batista, Kate Hudson, just
Yeah.
a great, great cast. And so I'm just, as long as they can at least meet that original one, I'll be happy because I really like Knives Out. Have you seen Knives Out?
And I wanted to see that so bad in the
Oh,
theater, and then it passed me by. And then I
yeah.
started to watch it on video one time, and
Okay.
I interrupted, never circled back. So
Okay.
I haven't seen the original, but
Okay.
obviously it looks really interesting to me, and
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that it is enjoyable.
Yeah.
And this preview looks really, I mean, the trailer looks really cool.
Yeah.
Dave Bautista looks like he's going to do some more funny stuff in it,
Totally.
and Edward Norton. I read I think something recently that he's hard to work with. Did you ever hear that about Edward Norton?
I have heard this before, and
Maybe you told me. I don't know.
yeah, I've heard it before too. And I don't know if it's one of those things where, I mean, look, he's such a great actor. I think he's just a very passionate filmmaker. I think
Could be.
as
Yeah.
he's gone on in his career, he's wanted more say in how the movie is made.
Yeah.
I know this mostly from The Incredible Hulk, which is the MCU movie that,
Yeah, I think you may have, maybe it was you telling me about that one, because
yeah,
and that was one of his, is probably why he's no longer in the MCU, right? Because he probably, I think
yes,
he fought for things to be a certain way and didn't
correct.
really win that battle. And
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right. That's right. Yeah. So,
it doesn't
yeah,
matter to this film. I'm just saying though, that's what I thought of when I saw Edward
right,
Norton.
right. Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
really like Edward Norton though. He's a great actor.
Me too. He's one of my favorites. He always delivers. So yeah, Glass Onion, it looks excellent. I'm really excited for another adventure in this world that Rian Johnson's
Yeah.
created. And so yeah, looking forward to it. That one is December 23rd on Netflix.
Yeah, I saw that it was Netflix. Yeah, so I'll be gearing up watching the first one before that one comes out.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. It should be fun. Final trailer that I wanted to talk about was I Want to Dance with Somebody. This is a new musical biopic about Whitney Houston. So, one of the most popular recording artists of all time, one of the greatest voices in history. I mean, she was
Yeah.
incredible
Yeah.
talent. I mean, just amazing. So, this is going to be her story. Naomi Ackie is playing the role of Whitney Houston. I know
A
her
newcomer?
from, yeah, she's relatively new. I know her. She had a supporting role in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. She played a character named Jana
Oh, okay.
towards the end of the film. They met
Yeah.
her, and she's really talented. From what I've seen of her, and this trailer looks really good. I mean, it looks like your typical biopic, right? I mean, it looks like it's going to chronicle her whole life kind
Yeah.
of journey, becoming a recording artist,
Right.
growing up in church, and
Right.
becoming this huge sensation. So, yeah, looks good.
Right.
Stanley Tucci's in it. I'm a big fan of him. Whenever he
Oh,
shows up, I
yeah, I
like
like
him a
him.
lot. So he looks like he's some kind of
He's funny.
record executive or something. So
Oh,
yeah, what
okay.
were your thoughts on this trailer?
Yeah, I don't know that I've seen a movie based on her life before, and
Yeah,
what a tragedy, you know. So
yeah,
when I watched it, first of all, I was thinking, I don't think that's Whitney's music, but she
mm,
sounds great. So I always think, is that the actor singing it, or do they have somebody sub? Because
right,
usually you're going to get one or the other, a great singer or great actor, but it's hard to get both, right?
yeah,
Jennifer Hudson is probably an exception, you know.
right, exactly.
And so I mean, I'm interested in it. It could get pretty dark if they really get into the tragedy and what
Right.
all she was embroiled in. Anyway, I won't comment anymore on it now,
Yeah,
but
right.
yeah, it does look like it could be good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a really good story to do because she was one of the best voices ever, right?
Yeah.
I did notice too that I think her most popular song has got to be the Dolly Parton remake, I Will Always Love You.
Oh, sure,
And
sure.
that wasn't even in the trailer, so I was kind of surprised about that. But there
Right.
might be a trailer 2 coming or something like that, you
Yeah,
know.
I'm sure there will be. This is the first trailer. Yeah, I'm sure they'll have to cover that and how that whole thing happened. Because
Yeah, I
yeah, that was
mean,
definitely
you
her
would
biggest
think.
hit.
I would
Well,
think
that
so.
that was on the Bodyguard soundtrack, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, like I said,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of musical biopics. Just watched Elvis recently.
Yeah, me too.
Huge,
Yeah,
huge
or I
fan.
watched some of it. I watched some
Okay,
of it.
gotcha. Yeah, I'm a
We
huge
can talk
fan
about
of.
that.
Yeah, we do, we do. Big fan of Walk the Line. I like a lot of those that kind of show you the history of these people and whenever they
Me
can get
too.
the. I
Yeah.
don't know how
Yeah.
involved that her family is with this one, but I know that Johnny Cash, actually Johnny Cash himself and his family was involved. He passed away before the movie was released, but when it was early
Oh.
days they were working on it, he was
Hmm.
consulted and his family was heavily involved. So yeah,
It's a
so
delicate thing because
it
I'm
is.
sure I'd be surprised if all the family is really thrilled about. Maybe none of them are thrilled about sort of how everything happened and the the
Sure.
tragedy and all that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wondered that too. Is like, well, obviously they're using her name and her music, so
Right.
the family must be going along with it.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see. It is in theaters December 21st. All right. Well, that's it for movie news. That's it for all the trailers we wanted to cover this week. Be sure to drop a comment down below. Let us know what you think of those pieces of news we discussed and what you thought of those trailers as well, if any of those stood out to you. But now we want to jump into our top 5 favorite Tom Hanks movies. Tom Hanks, we just talked about him a little bit last week on our Pinocchio podcast, and we wanted to dive deeper into his filmography because we're both big fans of the actor. He's one of the most prolific actors of all time. He's done so many movies
So many good
over
movies.
so many good movies, so many years he's been acting now up on the big screen. So a little bit of background on him. He was born in 1956 in California, and he started acting pretty early in his life when he was a teenager in school plays and things like that. He eventually got a guest spot on Happy Days and
Oh,
met
really?
met Ron Howard, and he gave him the role in Splash, which was Ron
Okay.
Howard's directorial
Right.
debut. And it was also Tom Hanks' first starring role. And so they kind of started their careers together in a weird way. He broke out in Splash. It was this big hit. And that kind of started his whole career. And he's been acting in tons of movies ever since, tons of directors we're going to be talking about on this list. His films have now grossed $9.96 billion worldwide,
Man.
which is incredible. So one of the highest earning actors of all time.
Yeah. And he usually headlines, which, you know,
Exactly.
you've got some actors that are in like Lord of the Rings or something. Well, they might have a small part, but they're not
Sure.
like the lead like he usually
Yes.
is. So I mean, I think it's a little more impressive in his case.
Definitely. Definitely. Super popular the world over, this guy. So,
Yeah.
and he just
You know,
seems
I
like a cool guy
go ahead.
too,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, he
in
does.
interviews and stuff. I was listening to an interview he did. Did you know that Dana Carvey and David Spade have a podcast now?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
called Fly on the Wall.
I
It's
haven't
pretty,
listened to it yet, but
it's
I'm
pretty
sure
fun.
yeah. Oh, you've listened to some?
Yeah, I have. I was listening to the Tom Hanks one. They did a Tom
I'm a
Hanks one
big fan
recently.
of, oh really? I'm a big
Yeah,
fan of both those guys.
me
So well, I mean
too.
all three, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Me
Right.
too. Yeah, it's this SNL centric podcast, but they have
Yeah.
all kinds of different guests on. So
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I was a little young for Splash when that came out.
yeah.
But Tom Hanks did this show in the 80s called Bosom Buddies,
Okay, I've
um,
heard of it. Yeah.
where where he and Peter Scolari played these two guys that they wanted to have cheap rent. I think it was in New York City. I don't know. I was pretty young when I watched it.
Yeah.
And so there was this, I think it was like a building, like in an apartment building, and it was an all girls building. And
Okay.
so they get cheap rent, they put on they dressed in drag and they
Right.
pretended to be girls. Like none of the girls they lived with ever figured out that they were guys. And it was it was really, I mean, he was
Right.
so funny in that. And
Yeah.
then he started coming out with movies and I started going to those. So
Right.
to me, he's always been, you know, a comedian at his roots,
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah, he did
But
start
he's
off
done
in a lot
some,
of comedic roles.
right. And I mean, I don't know if anybody has done so well at comedy and the seriousness
Yeah, that's a
of the
great point.
serious work.
Right.
Some have come close, maybe, Jim Carrey, but I think Tom Hanks
Right.
even more so.
Yeah, yeah, I would have to agree. Yeah, they talked all about you would love you. I'll have to send you that Fly on the Wall podcast because he talked all about how much he loved doing SNL because it
Yeah,
tapped into
he's
that
done
comedic
that a few
side. And
times. Yeah.
so yeah, 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 that's pretty neat. So before we jump into our lists, I don't know what's on Bert's list. He doesn't know what's on mine. But before we jump into that, we wanted to talk about how we came up with our list. So it's sometimes a little bit different for each of us. I know for me, whenever I'm looking at an actor, we did this with Tom Cruise a few months back.
Covering the
And
Toms.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny. The Toms. We have to
Tom
find the
Green is
next
next.
Tom. Right, exactly. So when we're looking at the actor, I always try to hone in on his performance more so than the
Yeah,
film itself.
exactly.
So that's really what I was looking at. I wanted, five very different performances that I
Hmm.
thought covered, each aspect of what he does well. What we were just talking about, comedy, the dramatic
Yeah.
side, I wanted it to cover everything. And I
Hmm.
also wanted to, cover, a bunch of different directors. So it's not going to be all Zemeckis movies. He's worked with Zemeckis multiple times. He worked with Spielberg
Yeah.
multiple times. So I tried to kind of get as much variety in my list as I could. So if someone came to me and said, "Hey, who's this Tom Hanks guy? What's he all about?" And I would give them these five movies to go watch. That was my thought process. What was yours?
Yeah. And we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but very similar.
Okay.
Essentially, I tried to pick ones where his acting specifically stood out because
Yeah.
there's probably some that would rank higher film wise,
Sure. Sure.
but I wanted to try to get those very best performances and it still being a good movie. Obviously, I'm
Yeah.
not going to pick
Right.
a great performance in a terrible movie.
Sure.
And there's only maybe been two movies of his I've ever seen that I didn't like, frankly.
Okay. Yeah.
But those aren't on this list, my
Yeah.
list.
Right.
But yeah, and then so I also didn't want to ignore some of his iconic roles that are also really popular.
Of
So it's
course.
a bit of a mixed bag,
Yeah.
but I agree with you. Yeah, honing in on where he really shone as an actor himself, was given a fair amount to do and that sort of thing.
Exactly. Cool. Before we jump in, we're going to mention some honorable mentions first. But
Yeah.
before we jump into that, I was listening to another podcast where Hanks talked about his personal favorite films that he's been in, which I thought
Oh,
was interesting. So I just wanted to list them real quick. Most people probably wouldn't guess these. Number three was Cloud Atlas, which
really?
I still have not seen. I've heard it's kind of a wild
It's
movie.
okay.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard
it's
it's very
okay.
bizarre. It's Wachowski's coming off of
Yeah,
Matrix, I think,
yeah.
and so I still
Doesn't
have
really
not.
make any sense.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard it's
Yeah.
very, very weird, but I'm at least curious about that one. So I
Mhm.
have to try and find time to watch it. I know it's pretty long. It's about a 3 hour movie, but he really enjoyed working with them on that. And then his number two was Castaway. And his reasons for picking these top two very much focused on where they were filming and the
Oh,
fact that he was with his family basically on vacation because
oh,
they shot Castaway in Fiji. And so his whole
wow.
family got to come along with him and stay on
Oh,
this beautiful island
yeah.
for what 2 months I think they were had to film there. And so
Except he had to go to work and do all that brutal stuff half the time, probably.
exactly. Right, right. But
Yeah.
he still said he really enjoyed working on it because he got to be with his family in the evenings
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
on this beautiful tropical paradise. So that was his number two, Castaway. Number one, his number one favorite film that he's been in is A League of Their Own. He's a
Oh,
huge
yeah.
baseball fan, and he just
Okay.
got to spend all summer playing baseball, and that's why he
Okay.
said it was his favorite movie to work on.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right, so now we'll jump into our honorable mentions. If you want me to kick it off, I'll
Go
jump in
ahead. Yeah.
with my
Do you want to
first.
do a couple and then I'll do a couple?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do a couple of them. So, my number one is Castaway on my honorable mentions. It was very close to making it. We discussed it a little bit last week. It's one of your favorite Zemeckis movies, and he's excellent in it. Of course, it's so well made, such a great performance. So that one I had to mention. Another one that was very close to making it was The Green Mile. This is an
Yeah.
excellent movie, very dramatic and emotional and affecting film, a prison movie, very, very well made on every level. Great supporting cast in that as well. So that
That's
one
a
was
long
very
one
close.
too.
It
Probably
is,
3 hours
yeah,
long. And I
right.
agree. It's one of my highest honorable mention ones as well.
Yeah,
And it's a great film. I've seen it
hmm
twice, and it's one of
yeah,
those that after a certain amount of time, I'm like, I really want to watch that movie again. It's a
Yeah,
very good drama.
it is. It
Excellent,
is.
excellent bad guy in that one.
Oh, definitely,
I
definitely.
forget his name.
Clancy
Um,
Brown is the bad guy. He does a
yeah.
great job.
Oh, you hate him so
Oh
much when
yeah, totally, totally. Yeah. One more that I'll mention before I jump over to you. Movie I just watched for the second time last night. It's called That Thing You Do,
oh,
and
I've
this
seen
is
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is a movie he directed. I think he might have even been involved in the script, and it's very much a kind of ode to his childhood. He grew up in the '60s, so it's that
Yeah.
'60s kind of movie about a band that becomes known for this one hit that they have, and
Right.
it's just so much fun. My
The
brother was
Wonders.
over last night, and he
Yeah.
had never seen it. He was over to watch a show that we watch called Primal, but before we started, I was like, have you seen That Thing You Do? I was looking at my notes. I was typing it up, and he's like, no, I've never seen it. I was like, we got to put it on right now. You're gonna love it because he's a musician like me. He plays drums in our band at church, and
Okay.
so I
Wow.
had to show it to him, and so he had a blast watching it. We had so much fun. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks kind of plays the bad guy in it. He's like the record executive who kind
Yeah.
of
Not the nicest.
is kind of
Yeah.
slimy, and so it's a nice change of pace for him there. It's his first directorial effort, and he did another movie I haven't seen called Larry Crown. He
Yeah. I have
directed
not
that,
seen that
but
one.
yeah, I haven't seen that. But I had to mention That Thing You Do because I'm a big fan of that one too.
Well, the one that's probably just barely missed my list, I would say, then is Polar Express. We talked about that
Okay.
one. Another Zemeckis film,
Yes.
and I think we talked about. I mean, you said he does like 7 roles, and I think that
Yeah.
sounds right to me because,
Yeah.
and they're really all different.
Right.
And he just gets the chance to just give just a really varied performance, and
Definitely.
I don't think we'd seen that kind of range from a lot of movies by one
Right.
actor, except maybe
Right.
Eddie Murphy.
Sure. Sure.
But and he's kind of playing sort of the variation of the same person, but
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy, that is. But yeah,
Hmm.
so that's I mean, it's got a lot of rewatchability,
Yeah.
especially in 3D, I think. I
Hmm.
know it's one that you like quite a bit.
Yeah, we watch it every year at Christmas time.
Yeah.
We love all the songs. We love all the
Yeah.
characters. It's so much fun, such a cool, unique film. And yeah,
Yeah.
his it's so rare that an actor gets to play that many roles in one movie. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's I'm glad you mentioned it because it's definitely worth mentioning.
Right. And then these are I'll put them in the same category. Captain Phillips and Sully
Okay,
are
yeah,
both
I
really
had both of those on my list too. He's done a bunch
uh-huh.
of these biopics, right? These like
Right.
based on a true story. And so I've
Right.
got several of those, but yeah, those are two that I wanted to mention as well.
Yeah, they're both very good movies,
Hmm.
and he does a great job. He does tend to have a way of disappearing into the character,
Yes.
despite his very recognizable voice. You
Right,
know,
right,
he does a
exactly.
pretty good job of that. It's tough.
Yeah,
It's
it
tough.
is. It is.
When you got a voice like his that's so recognizable. And
Right.
then another one I'll throw out there is Apollo 13, which is a
Mm,
tremendous film.
yeah.
But I mean, he's really good in it, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it focuses on him, nor is it
Right.
his movie where he shows the most range.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more of an ensemble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. I like those as well. Yes. I'll mention Saving Mr. Banks, where he played Walt Disney.
Oh, sure.
What
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
a tough role because so many people grew up watching Walt Disney every day on TV, and so
Yeah.
I just think he did a superb job there.
Right.
Yeah, Sully was really good. Understated performance that he did working with Clint Eastwood there. Bridge of Spies is a Spielberg
Oh, I
one.
didn't see that one.
Yeah, you should. It's Spielberg, and it's a true story. So
And
that's
Spielberg did
good
Saving
movie.
Private Ryan, right?
Sure did, sure did.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. That was
So
their
some of the
first
same territory.
collaboration.
Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So this is a Cold War era film. That's definitely
Oh, it's Cold War.
yeah, it's
Okay.
Cold War. Right.
It's not
Yeah.
a
So
direct sequel, is what
60s.
you're saying.
Right, right. Yeah. You can kind of consider it a sequel, I guess. The next war after World War II. Yeah, that's a good one. Another one he did with Spielberg called The Post. I'm a big fan of. Got it right up there.
Oh,
That's
okay.
about
I
it's
haven't heard
about
of
the
that one.
story that happened right before Watergate, with
Oh,
the
okay.
Washington
So it's about the
Post, and
Washington Post. Okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Huh.
It makes a great double feature with All the President's Men because All the
Yeah,
President's
yeah.
Men is all about the Watergate scandal, and this is
Sure.
what happened
Yeah.
right before that. So
Okay. Interesting.
makes a good double feature there. He does a great job playing
Huh.
another real life persona.
Yeah.
Sleepless in Seattle is really good. Just one of the greatest rom coms ever. Him and Meg Ryan. I wanted to mention Bonfire of the Vanities because I feel like that movie is divisive
It
And
got a lot of hate when it came out. I never saw it. Never
definitely
saw it.
did. I
Yeah.
really liked that movie.
Oh, really?
I really liked it. I
Is
thought
that
it was
Melanie
great.
Griffith? Is that who's in
Melanie
it?
Griffith,
Yeah.
Bruce Willis.
Oh, that's right. He's in that too. Yeah.
Yeah, very different role for Hanks. Very different role for Willis as well.
Oh.
And it's Brian De Palma. I mean, he's a great
Oh.
director. Yeah, I liked it. I don't know. I don't know what it
Hmm.
is about that movie. I've looked at reviews and yeah, people don't like it very much, but I enjoyed it. That one, The Money Pit, have to mention The Money Pit because my wife watches that movie constantly.
Really?
It's we were watching it the other
Okay.
night.
It's
She
not
thinks
bad.
it's hilarious. It's one of her
Yeah.
favorites. It's one of her go-to movies, and
Yeah.
I get a lot of laughs out of it too. I have a lot of fun with it. So yeah, I had to mention that. Did you have any others you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I'll throw out You've Got Mail,
Yeah.
which I actually like a little better than Sleepless in
Okay.
Seattle.
Yeah, I like both a
Obviously,
lot.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. The Terminal,
Mm.
which I think he does a pretty good job with the accent in that movie, and I'm
Hmm.
gonna say something about that in a little bit here on a
Okay.
different film that'll come up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a unique film. Have you seen that one, The Terminal?
I sure have.
Oh, okay, yeah. Do you like that one?
Yes, I do a lot.
Okay, yeah. And then I think we did you say Catch Me If You Can?
I
Did you mention that
didn't.
one?
I didn't. I'm glad you brought that up though, because that was
Yeah, he's
another
good
one
in
I
that too.
considered, but I
Yeah.
consider him a supporting character.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But he's good in it. I mean,
He
there's quite a
is.
few more too that could be on this list.
Sure.
Bachelor Party.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah,
Right.
those are the
Right.
rest that I had for runners up.
Yeah. Yeah. Lastly, I wanted to mention Elvis because this is his most recent film that everyone's talking about right now. Just came on HBO Max. My wife and I watched it about a week or two ago, and he's excellent in it. I mean, he's as always. I mean, he doesn't really give a bad performance, I don't think, anymore. He always does something interesting. And I don't know much about this character, this person, Colonel Parker. I'm assuming he's playing him very accurately. He's in quite a bit of prosthetics, first of
Right.
all. So
Right.
he looks very different. And you mentioned the accent. I'm guessing this is the one you wanted to talk about the accent with. Were you not a fan of his odd accent in this?
I I don't it doesn't work for me.
Okay. Okay.
And mind you, I got 40 minutes into Elvis.
Yeah.
And I actually I accidentally hit the Netflix button on my remote and it switched out of it. And I just said to myself, I don't think I want to watch the rest of this.
I'm done.
And I can say more about it, but continue.
Okay.
I'll give you my thoughts once you're done.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I talking about his performance. It is very different and very specific what he's doing. And so I can see why a lot of people would be turned off by it. I was fine with it. I was kind of into it. I like it when actors branch out and do kind of weird and different things.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it didn't bother me. I was able to
Okay.
get into it pretty well, especially when we get more into Elvis and his backstory. That's where the movie really found its footing for me. The
Gotcha.
setup initially to me was a little, it wasn't
Yeah.
great, but once we got
Right.
into it, I was totally on board. So
I mean, it's Baz. Is it Baz Luhrmann? Is that the director?
Baz Luhrmann, yeah, very
Yeah.
very specific style that guy has.
Yes.
Wow.
And see, I think that's the problem here.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say Tom Hanks blew it with
Right.
his character.
Sure.
It just it was pulling me out of the movie, and it doesn't
Gotcha.
help that Baz Luhrmann tends to, his edits are so abrupt, but
Yes.
sometimes abrupt is good. But I
Yeah.
feel like I wasn't able to connect with anything that was happening on the screen because it was dot 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 dot. And so that just, I'm like, after 40 minutes in, I'm like, what is this even doing? Like, I don't know who Elvis even is. I don't know.
Okay.
I was not digging it at all. And I didn't love
Okay.
Moulin Rouge either. I mean, it was a beautiful
Okay.
movie to look at,
Sure.
but a lot of the same kind of feel. And that's actually the
Right.
only other one of his I've seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, just not my preferred style, I guess, of
I
storytelling.
gotcha. Yeah, that's fine. And that's, like I said, it is a very specific style. So yeah, when I first saw Moulin Rouge, that was the first thing I ever saw by Lerman. And I was just taken back by it, but I was really into it because it was unlike anything I had seen before. So I'm a big fan of that one. I'm a fan of his Great Gatsby remake as well.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Leonardo
Actually,
DiCaprio.
I have seen that. That is pretty good. I
You
like
did like that one?
I forgot about that one.
Okay. Yeah. That's another.
I have that one in 3D actually.
Oh, interesting. That would be cool to
Yeah.
see 3D.
3D
Yeah.
Blu-ray. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a very specific style. So I totally get why a lot of people aren't into it. And
Yeah, it's
the
not
review,
terrible. I mean, I could watch the rest. I
right?
mean, it did have some really neat camera tricks and camera
Yeah,
angles, and
right.
some great visuals, but not really my style for trying
Yeah,
to get
it's
into like a character driven performance.
right, right. It's a very, like I said, highly stylized, very lot going
Yeah,
on
right,
in that
right.
movie. And so yeah, I can get why if you're looking for just kind of a more straightforward biopic that you wouldn't be able to connect with it quite as well because it does
It
have
seems like a weird yeah, it seems like a weird genre to use those kind of crazy cuts and that kind of thing.
I agree.
Out
I
of all the
agree.
genres.
Yeah, right, right. That's true. I think the reason it works there is because it's Elvis and he was kind of always pretty flashy guy, you know? Maybe
Yeah,
that's why
that's
it worked
true.
for me because I was kind of
Gotcha.
um ready for it and I had read some reviews that had talked about that already. I knew what Lerman's style was, so
Yeah,
I was just
yeah,
maybe a little more prepared for it. But
gotcha.
yeah, I know that Elvis's daughter was a huge fan. She
Yeah.
was she
Okay. So
was
the
all
family
about
approved
it.
of this one.
Yeah, she got the endorsement, you know.
It
Yeah.
did remind me a little bit the initial few minutes of A Thing You Do. I was gonna
Oh yeah.
bring that back into it. It
Right.
had kind of that same thing where I mean, in That Thing You Do, I mean, I saw it one time when it first came out, so it's been a while.
Okay.
But isn't he kind of looking for the talent, and then he comes across these four guys or five
Yeah,
guys,
well
right?
they're kind of just in this small town,
Yeah,
trying to make it. And then yeah,
right.
he hears it and they meet him at some restaurant or
That's yeah,
something and he's like, I want to sign you guys. So yeah,
right.
it's
It
kind
reminded me
of
a little bit of that, not in a
right.
bad way per se, but yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's a funny parallel. I didn't actually think about that, where he's
Oh,
kind of the scout manager,
yeah,
scouting for talent.
yeah,
Um,
right.
so yeah, that's interesting.
What do you give?
Um,
I didn't finish the movie, so I can't really give it a star rating. But what would you give
I think I
Elvis?
gave it 3.5.
Oh, you did review it.
So I
Okay,
was, yeah, I reviewed it on Letterboxd.
okay,
So
three and a
it's either
half.
three and
Yeah,
maybe
that's fair.
four actually.
Oh,
Because by the end of it, we were really into it. My wife and I were both watching it, and
hmm,
got pretty emotional at the ending actually
mm,
for us, seeing just what all he went through and what how his life ended was so tragically.
yeah.
Yeah, we both really enjoyed the movie.
And then my only last question is, are you a fan of Elvis? Because see, I don't really care for Elvis,
I am.
so that was the other challenge. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
Because like
Right.
Whitney Houston, I'm like, oh, I'm there. She's great. I love a lot of her
Okay.
songs. Elvis, I'm like, Elvis, really? I
Okay.
mean, no offense
Yeah.
to anybody that likes the guy or
Sure.
loves the
No.
guy, but
No. Yeah. A huge fan. I grew up
oh,
listening
okay.
to him. So
Okay.
yeah, we
So
had
you
all
might
his
have that
albums.
in your court, yeah, on your
Exactly. I was
side.
already rooting for him going in.
Gotcha. Okay. I,
Right.
I don't
Right.
hate them. Again,
Sure.
this isn't hate. It's just that
Right.
I
Not your
just
preferred thing.
no,
Right.
really not.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. So now we're ready to jump into this top five list. Bert, let's start off with your number five.
Yes, my number five. I'm going to throw some love to the Toy Story series and Tom Hanks in it. He kind of co-stars, in the series,
Sure.
and just tremendous voice acting. I mean, obviously, there's not. He doesn't appear in person.
Right.
They're not using the motion capture,
Right.
but the fact is, you've got four really good films, if not great films. I want to say that maybe my personal favorite is still the first, but I think for kids, the second one is probably maybe the best.
Yeah.
Just to throw that out there. But his
Sure.
performance throughout is just, it never wavers. He always throws himself into that voice acting as much as you possibly can.
Yep.
And we talked a little bit before about his voice being sort of indelible, now in people's minds
Right.
because of those movies that get constantly replayed. If there's ever any kids in the house, and those movies get
Right.
constantly replayed.
Yeah.
So it is hard to separate out his voice for anything else, and you can
Mm.
instantly pull it out of any if you hear it somewhere in another film, you're like, oh, there's
Yes.
a Tom Hanks movie on.
Yeah.
And these
Right.
films did that, and I mean, he just nails all the emotional beats. I can't think of any moment where I thought, oh, that was just okay. Maybe one of the best character voice acting performances that I've heard. I don't get into a lot of animation,
Sure.
but I also wanted to call this out partly because sometimes I do tend to put animation on the back burner. But I
Sure.
did want to point out that he just does tremendously with his voice acting in this film. He really is the star, I
Yeah.
think, despite Buzz's being sort of the other main star. But
Right.
I don't know. What do you think about the Toy Story films?
Yeah, we're gonna talk more about this soon. on
Okay,
my list.
fair
So I'm
enough.
not going to
Fair
say
enough.
too much, but yeah, I echo
Yeah,
everything you just said. Super, super well
yeah,
done voice acting,
yeah.
which in my opinion is sometimes harder than on-screen acting because you have to put
Sure.
it all out there with just your voice. And
Right,
so,
right.
yeah, we'll talk more about Toy Story very soon.
Okay, but that's my number five. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent selection. Okay, jumping into my number five, which is The Terminal. So you just mentioned this in your
Oh,
honorable
yeah,
mentions. And
yeah.
the reason I didn't say too much is because I wanted to talk about it in my list. So
Good, good.
this is Steven Spielberg
Hmm.
film from 2004. Had a budget of 60 million, so fairly low budget considered, by
For
Hollywood
Spielberg.
standards for
Yeah.
Spielberg, especially. Yeah, ended up grossing 219 million, so it was a pretty big
Wow.
hit. And it's got a great supporting cast. Catherine Zeta-Jones might be one of her best roles as well. Stanley Tucci,
Yeah.
Chi McBride, Diego Luna, Zoe Saldana, Barry Henley, and an actor named Kumar Palana. All these supporting characters are so much fun to watch and
Yeah.
fun to watch interact with
Yeah.
Hanks's character here. It's shot by Janusz Kaminski, who we've
Yeah.
talked
Oh,
about many times
Janusz.
before. He
Janusz is the
shoots this
best.
movie so well. It's such
Yeah.
a the thing about this movie. It's such a simple idea, right? So it's this
Right.
guy from this Eastern European country arrives in New York City, and during the flight, his country went into revolution, and so he now is a member of a citizen of no nation, basically.
Yeah.
And so he's stuck at the airport. He has to live at this
Yeah.
airport
Yeah.
until this whole
Love it.
issue is resolved.
Hmm.
And so it's just such a interesting idea, funny idea,
Hmm.
and it's a funny movie, very funny.
Yeah.
He gets to really
It
show off his
is.
comedic chops here, and gets to play dramatic as well. There's a lot
Hmm.
of dramatic moments too in his interactions
Yeah.
with these characters, and he develops these relationships with all these people. It's really interesting, really well put together. Michael Kahn edited the film. He edits a lot of Spielberg's movies, just like Kaminsky shoots a lot of them. The
Hmm.
technical aspects are top notch, super well
Yeah.
shot, super well edited, just really great visuals here, fun to watch. John Williams, of course, does the score here as well. It's a very kind of unique John Williams score. It's not big and bombastic. It's a lot smaller,
Hmm.
much more intimate, like the story requires. And just the way Hanks plays this character, such an honest guy. Stanley Tucci is constantly trying to get rid of him, and so he's trying to get him to technically break the law and leave this place. Several times he tries to get
Yeah.
him out, and he won't do it. He's just an honest, decent guy.
Hmm.
He wants to do what's right, and
Yeah.
the reason he's in New York is really interesting. You learn at the end of the film, and so it's just really well done. He does another accent here, which is done very well,
Yeah. I
and
think it is. Yeah.
it's throughout the film he learns English, and you see
Hmm.
him kind of learning the language. He knows a little bit when he first gets there, but by the end of the movie he's a little more fluent and can have full on conversations. But when he gets there, he's totally lost. He doesn't know how to read English. He doesn't know how to get around where he's going. It's kind of frantic.
Hmm.
And as you kind of settle into the movie, he kind of settles into this life that he's living in this
Yeah.
airport. And it's just such a great journey we go on with him throughout this film. This is a movie I had only seen when it first came out, so I was fairly young when I
Oh.
first saw it. Didn't remember it that well,
Yeah.
but for this list, I was like, I got to revisit that. That's a Spielberg movie. I bet that's better than I remember, because I only had it at like 2 or 3 stars. I didn't have it
Yeah.
very high because I
Oh,
didn't just
okay.
didn't remember it that well. So on a
Sure.
rewatch, it got a full 4 stars. I mean, this is
Yeah.
just an
Yeah.
absolute joy to watch this movie.
Right.
So yeah, just again, it's hilarious, it's heartfelt, it kind of has everything you could want in a movie. Just super well done. Had a blast watching it. Do you have any thoughts on The Terminal?
Just a good pick. And I've seen it once, maybe twice, but it's been
Okay.
a while.
Yeah.
If I would have rewatched it, it's possible would have made it in my top five too.
Right.
But
Right.
it is very good, and one of many on our list that is just very dependent on that lead performance.
Yes.
If
Totally.
you don't nail that, then it's going to be a garbage film.
Absolutely.
Especially when
Yeah.
there's an accent like that and a well-known actor. Like if you
Right.
blow that, it's going to be, oh, that's bad.
That's the thing. That's the thing. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that I'm sure will come up again and again, is how he disappears into these roles, kind of, even though
Right.
it's Tom Hanks, but
Hmm.
it's like he really becomes the character.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's
Great.
a
All
great
right. Do
pick.
you want to do your number four now?
Yeah, my number four, speaking of disappearing into characters, I've got Forrest Gump.
Great.
And
Great pick. Yep.
and again, I don't want to rehash because we spent a lot of time on Forrest Gump.
We have.
But just to say, just the ability to create such a nuanced character and go with it and have it work so well
Yep.
and be so beloved by the, by, I mean, probably the entire world, but
Sure.
I mean, who doesn't love Forrest Gump, right?
Right.
And then so many quotable lines.
Yep.
You definitely feel like he's a different person when you're watching him. He's got the buzz cut.
Right.
He just looks different.
Yeah.
And so just tremendous job with that role. Sally Field's good in it too. I will say I don't think he shows as much range as I have as he shows in my top three roles that I'll give. But there's still a lot for him to do, and he nails it, and he nails the comedy and the drama.
Yeah.
And there's some touching moments in there too. I don't mean to shortcut it.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, great film, and one that really obviously just primarily focuses on how well he can pull off that character that he's created.
Right, exactly. Yeah, excellent pick. Excellent pick. All right, I'll jump in straight into my number four, which is Toy Story 4. So
four. Okay.
Yeah, I picked four. I did
four.
Right, exactly.
Gotcha.
I feel like 4 is more Woody's story than any of the other ones. So he's definitely front and center at all of them, but I feel like 4 and the writers and producers have even talked about how 3 the first 3 movies kind of end the Andy storyline, right? But they felt that where they left Woody, there was still more to do with ending his journey. And so that's why they wanted to make the 4th one. And I think it's actually the best of all 4.
Oh, really? Okay.
Not just from Hank's performance, but the story overall. I think it's the best looking. There's a great video essay on YouTube by a guy named Nerd Writer. He did a video called The Real Fake Cameras of Toy Story 4. And it goes all into how they totally revolutionized the cinematography of animation with that movie. It's an incredible video.
You'll have to post that link because I'd like to see that.
I will. It's really an amazing video. And so, this is one I saw in the theater, took my brothers to see it. It just came out a couple of years ago, 2019.
Right.
And just what an incredible, groundbreaking film, animation-wise. But with the story, I mean, the whole story of Toy Story is really, and this movie highlights it more than any of the others, I think, is it's really about parents and children, right? These toys are more representatives for the parents than they are for these plastic things that kids play with, So, he just, the voice performance is perfect. I wouldn't change a thing about it. It's so emotional. You can tell that I think Hanks knew this was the last time he was playing him, so he really
is it official that it's the last time?
Yeah, he said it, and the folks at Pixar have said it too. They could do spin-offs with other characters, but I don't think we'll see any more of Woody. There's no reason to, right? I mean, everyone thought 3 was such a perfect ending, and I get why, but I really am glad they made this 4th one because it to me it really drives home the whole point of the franchise, which is letting go, growing up, that coming of age thing. It's all about Woody moving on from, he's at the beginning of the movie, he's kind of obsessed with Andy still and how Andy did things. And even though he's with a new kid now who plays differently, he's not played with as much. And he's kind of, having to move on and find a new purpose in life. Right. And he finds new purpose in kind of helping other toys find their homes where they're supposed to be. So it's that whole idea that I think is really well delivered. And Hank's in his voice again, it's just an incredible thing to think about him in a recording booth with headphones on, playing this character so well and just getting across all the emotion that he needs to get across.
He does it.
To make us cry every time. It makes me cry. This is one of those few movies that does that for me. I grew up with the whole franchise. I was I don't know, 3 when the first one came out, and so I've grown up with these characters, and so have a lot of meaning to me. And so so that one had to make the list. It's one of his billion-dollar films also. Budget of 200 million, gross of 1.073 billion. So it's a
Wow.
huge, huge
Is that
hit.
the wonder if that's the most money spent on an animated film, not including things like Avatar and stuff
I'm
like that. I'm
sure it's
thinking,
up there. I'm sure
yeah,
200
gotta
million. Yeah,
be.
that's a
Phew.
big budget. Yeah. All right. Well, that is my number four. What's your number three?
My number three is Big, the
Oh, good
80s
pick.
film.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure most people have seen this by now, but it's where a boy who's probably, I don't know, 10 makes a wish on a Zoltar machine. It's hard to describe what that even is. It's like a wizard that grants wishes supposedly at this carney.
Yeah.
And when he wakes up the next morning, he makes a wish that he wants to be big. And when he wakes up the next morning, he is, much to his surprise and everyone else around him. This is just a tremendous vehicle for a fairly young Hanks
Mm.
to show how diverse he can be. And there is a lot of comedy in there, although he plays it straight because the situation around him is so
Right.
bananas for the most part. But
Yeah.
and then like he reconnects still with his best friend who's still 10,
Mm.
and they have a lot of hijinks. And then he goes to work for a company and he's acting like a kid, of course. And
Right.
there's just so much fun in this
Yeah.
film. As usual, you got great drama, great comedy. Hanks just early on just shows kind of his range. And it's a film that I've seen numerous times over the years. Have you seen Big?
I have. It's been a while, but
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
seen it, and yeah, I remember having a lot of fun with it. It's such a just great idea,
Yeah,
and
it's a big concept. Yeah.
right, right, and yeah, he does such a great job playing. It's kind of it reminds me of Shazam, right? Shazam is that idea of that's a comic book character I've read many comics of, and so I was kind of familiar with that whole idea of a kid who becomes an adult, but he's still a kid in
Sure.
an adult's body,
Right.
and yeah, it's
Right.
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, those by the way, those Zoltar machines, they have those around. And
Oh,
I think they're around because I think they were created for the movie. I'm
yeah,
pretty sure at least. And
right,
then I've seen those at various places around. I saw one in
interesting.
Nashville, Tennessee. I stayed far away from it though. Those things are kind
Yeah,
of creepy.
they are pretty creepy. Yeah, I wouldn't go near one.
Yeah. But great performance by Hanks
Yeah,
and hilarious. He was still doing
right.
mostly comedies at that point.
Yeah,
And yeah, so that's what I got performance wise at number three.
that's excellent. Excellent choice. Excellent choice. All right, moving right along to my number three, which is one you mentioned just at your number four, Forrest Gump. This one, yeah, is one I've seen so many times over the years, and another very specific character that
Yeah.
I can't imagine anyone else playing. It's
What would that movie be if someone else did it? I don't
I
even
have
know.
no idea. No idea. Yeah. So he does a great job. First time collaborating with Zemeckis there. They've, of course, worked on Castaway, Polar Express, Pinocchio. They've worked many
Yeah.
times together. So got a great actor director pair there. That one had a budget of 55 million to
Wow, that's
date.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty low for considering how many effects that movie had. Just
Yeah.
groundbreaking effects. You would think it would cost more, but
Well, I mean, five
um,
years later, they spent like 250 million on Titanic. So
right.
yeah, for given
Exactly.
the effects, I think Zemeckis does that though. He
Yeah, he
keeps
finds
the
a way.
reins pretty tight. Yeah.
Right, right. It's pretty
Mhm.
incredible. So yeah, it's now ended up grossing over 600 million. So more than made its budget back by now. It's just, to me, it's probably his most memorable character that he's ever played,
Yeah,
his most
probably.
popular character.
It's most iconic.
So
Yeah.
right. And so, yeah, like you mentioned, such memorable dialogue. The way he delivers these lines is just perfect. And I was watching a little bit of behind the scenes on it, and it's crazy to look at how quickly he can go in and out of character.
Really.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would think for a character like that, especially because that's another one
Yeah.
with a very specific accent,
Yeah.
and I would think he would have to stay in that. But he would go in and out of it. You watch him talking with Zemeckis. He's like, "Oh, so you want me to do it like that? Okay, yeah, yeah. Life is like," and then he goes right into it. It's just so crazy to see.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really, really incredible to see what talent is on display there. So yeah, just a movie I enjoy watching, a character I
Mhm.
really like, a performance that has it all. I mean, it's like you
Yeah.
mentioned, it's got the comedy, it's got plenty of
Yeah.
dramatic moments as well,
Yeah.
some action as well. I mean, it's got kind of everything. So yeah, Forrest Gump had to be in there.
The actors that have to stay in character, and are not the nicest to some of their co-actors. You know, we hear about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Right.
It does make you wonder, well, why? You know, like you wonder
Right.
if the actors are like eating lunch and looking over at the guy that's still in character, and they're like, why does he have to like still be in character? Like I can just
Right.
pop into my character.
Right. Yeah.
I
The
mean, Tom
method
Hanks though, he's one of the
route.
best, but yeah.
Yeah, he is. And I think the method route, it gets a bad rap. I think there's different versions of it because this has been a topic recently actually because
Oh,
I forget who it was that came out strongly against it.
oh,
I think it was David Harbour actually from Stranger Things. I think he was like, yeah, these people are morons. I don't know why they do this. They're just doing it to be rude, and they're just doing it so they have an excuse for their mean behavior.
so they
And
can appear more important than other people or
right,
something.
exactly. But Andrew
Yeah.
Garfield was a guy that came out and kind of defended it,
Oh,
saying that he did method acting on something like there's a movie he did called Silence. I don't know if you've seen that,
I have
where
not seen that.
he played a priest missionary
Oh,
over to Japan,
oh.
and he was like, I didn't eat like I usually do because my
Mm.
character was losing weight and he was in this
Oh,
prison. So
he was
that kind
angry.
of
Is
method
that what you're
acting,
telling me? He
right,
was angry
right,
part of the time, and it came across bad. Yeah,
right. Well, no, he said it doesn't give you an excuse to be mean, but
yeah,
it's like, there are certain times when, an actor maybe does need to go above and beyond and get into the role a little bit more than they usually would. So
right,
I
right.
think there's a balance there, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I completely get the method thing. Like I can
Yeah.
tell you that after watching like a series of British TV,
Hmm.
my British accent's a little better. So I could
Right,
see if you're
sure,
doing like something
sure.
something that's really out there to sort of
Yeah,
snap out of that and then go back to it without anybody
right.
else around there doing that. That
Yeah,
would be tough. I mean, we
it
need to
would.
compliment Mr. Hanks on what he did with Forrest Gump.
I agree. I agree completely. Yep. So that's my number three. What's your number two?
My number two is Punchline from 1988. Have you seen Punchline?
I've not seen this.
Okay, I really recommend it.
Okay.
Um, Hanks plays a guy he's finishing medical school, but he can't really seem to settle into that life. Like you can
Mm,
tell his heart's not there. His dad still thinks he's in medical school. Hanks was pretty young when he did this. I mean, he
okay.
had to be in his 20s, I think.
Oh, okay.
So his dad still thinks he's in medical school, but at nighttime he does what he's really good at, which is stand-up comedy. And
Oh.
so, and actually, Sally Field is in it too. She plays one of the
Oh.
other comics, kind of
Okay.
the romantic interest.
Okay.
And
That's
the
funny. She's
film,
his mom in Forrest Gump.
I know, yeah, the second one on my top five where they're in it together. Little different dynamics in that one,
Right.
just slightly.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a really solid drama,
Sure.
and I'm telling you that I did put it slightly ahead of Forrest Gump with
Yeah.
how deep Hanks digs
Mm,
character wise.
okay.
And because it is mostly a drama. I mean, it's obviously
Mm,
about stand-up comedians. The
hmm.
film actually doesn't give you like great stand-up comedy where you're like, oh, these people should be selling out arenas, because they're playing people that are like slumming it. Like they're going down to the
Right.
local comedy club in New York,
Yeah.
and the material's decent. Hanks in particular has a couple scenes where he actually is really funny, but a
Okay.
lot of the other clips they show of other people, and it's not like there's a lot of clips of other people, but just to give a tiny little flavor, they'll show some of the
Yeah.
other comedians too, and they're okay, on purpose, I think, you know what I mean, like they're
Right.
not outstanding. And then Sally
Sure.
Field too, like a lot of her character, it's based on the fact that she isn't very good and she's trying to figure out how to be
Mm,
funny,
right.
and Hanks kind of helps her and that kind of thing.
Okay.
There's one particularly heart-wrenching scene, because Hanks at a certain point, I don't want to give away too much in case you see it, but
Hmm.
he's going to he thinks he's about to be discovered, and there's some talent scouts that are coming to
Okay.
their comedy club.
Yeah.
And so he's getting ready to go on, and he's really excited about it, nervous. And then right before he goes on, he looks to the crowd and realizes that it's not the talent scouts that are there, it's his dad. Like
Oh,
someone was looking for him and it wasn't.
right.
And his dad is very disapproving. And
Right.
well, I'm giving this away. He
Sure.
is then he still has to go on, and he just
Sure.
like what he has to deal with going through his act, because some of it
Yeah.
involves his dad.
Right. Right.
Oh, it's really the best Hanks I think that you'll just about get.
Oh,
It's
wow.
so good. Yeah, it's so
Okay.
good.
I'll have to
Yeah,
look
so
for this.
yeah. If you can find it,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it wasn't a big hit when it came out. It,
Hmm.
it maybe even flopped, but he was
Yeah.
pretty new in the acting biz at that point.
Sure.
Like I said, range wise,
Yeah.
I mean, there's some that are probably around that, but I mean, I think he really digs deep
Okay.
with what he has to. A lot of stand. I think most stand-up comedians would tell you that they do comedy so that they're not crying all the time, like that kind of
Right.
thing. Like they're
Yes.
really tormented people,
Right. Right.
and
Sure.
it really comes through in this role. So I just strongly
Mm.
recommend it if you want to see Hanks at least as good as you've probably seen him, if not better than all of his other movies.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm really interested in that now. I
Save my
hadn't.
number one.
Yeah, I hadn't even heard of that. So that's
Oh,
great.
okay.
That you brought that up because yeah, I'm always looking for a new Hanks movie to watch. So
Mm,
yeah, I'll definitely seek that one out. And
so good.
that's cool that it's early in his career too, because sometimes it's those roles early on in an actor's life that makes them, really go for it because they're
Hmm.
hungry for success. And so, yeah, that's one I'll have to look for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we're on to my number two, which is from 1990, Joe versus the Volcano.
Oh, really? I've never seen
Yes.
this one.
Okay, okay. Yeah, you should look for it. It is really fun, and it's one of these where um, it's definitely blending his comedic sensibilities with his dramatic side. It's
Okay.
really a kind of modern fairy tale, is kind of how I would describe
Oh.
it. It's not really based in reality necessarily. It's definitely like a
Hmm.
heightened reality,
Okay.
and you get that right off the bat. The opening scene, he's walking to work and this song's playing over the images of him and this long line of all these people kind of just moseying their way to this huge factory, and it's kind of about his character Joe discovers he has a terminal illness and he has to
Oh.
decide how he's going to live his final days.
Oh, is that
And
right?
so
Okay.
yeah, so it's really kind of heavy subject matter but dealt with in a kind of darkly comedic way. So if
Meg
you're
Ryan's
into
in that too, isn't she?
Meg Ryan is in this. Yes,
I
I was
didn't
about
know
to bring her
that.
up.
Yeah.
She plays three characters in this film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Huh.
each of her characters kind of interact with him at different points in his life as he's kind of
Oh.
going through this journey.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
it is a really three really good performances by Meg Ryan. Probably my favorite role of hers as well. But
Wow.
yeah, this was right up there with my number one. Went back and forth. John Patrick Shanley directed and wrote it.
Hmm.
He's a playwright. He
Oh.
hasn't done a ton of movies. The only movies he's really been involved with are there's a movie called Moonstruck that
Oh,
he
yeah.
did.
With Nick Cage and Cher.
Yep, exactly. And then he did
Hmm.
Doubt, which was
Hmm.
a Amy Adams, Meryl Streep film. I haven't seen that one either,
Oh,
but
I haven't either.
he's kind of known for his plays. So
Okay.
this is one of his few kind of movie gigs. He's written several movies. He's directed a couple. But this is, I think, the first one. Yeah, this is the first one he directed. $25 million budget, not a huge budget. Bombed. It only grossed 39
Oh,
million, so
yeah.
it
Yeah.
didn't really do well. But a great supporting cast, lots of great actors. Lloyd Bridges shows up,
Okay.
Robert Stack, Abe Vigoda, Dan Hedaya, Barry
Oh, yeah.
McGovern is in there,
Okay.
Ossie Davis. So a lot of great what's called character actors, which
Yeah.
to me is an oxymoron. Every actor should be a character actor.
It's kind of a
Um,
weird term. Yeah.
but movie stars to distinguish the movie stars, I guess, from the character actors. Hanks, I think, is one of the few who's both, right? He can headline a movie,
Yeah.
but to me, he really gets into his characters and plays his characters so
Yes.
well, so distinctly.
Right.
So yeah, it's just really fun. It's a really fun movie to watch. I
Okay.
rewatched it this week. Again, it blends comedy, drama, romance, adventure. It's all kind of in there. Really striking visuals. Like I said, it's kind of this heightened reality. So the production design is kind of out there a little bit, but it
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
has still a grounded quality to it where it's not just like a fantasy thing completely, but
Hmm.
it very much in its style and in its storytelling is a sort of fable. It's a sort
Okay.
of moral lesson that
Hmm.
is taught throughout this journey that these characters go on. So yeah, it's one that I own right here on Blu-ray. It's great. I've watched it numerous times. So definitely was right there with my number one. Almost edged it
Hmm.
out, but not quite. So
Wow.
yeah, Joe versus the Volcano. Check it out.
Maybe if I can, maybe if you can find Punchline, I can try to find Joe versus
There
Volcano.
you
We'll see what
go.
we
There you
got.
go. Sounds good. All right, now we're on to your number one, Bert. What you got?
My number one is one of your runner-ups, so it's Castaway, which probably
Oh,
isn't a huge
great.
surprise to you.
Sure, sure. Yeah, we talked about this extensively on our Robert Zemeckis podcast last week.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
exactly.
good one.
Yeah. So I'll just briefly say, just so powerful. It was talked about so much in pop culture, and people,
Yeah,
just friends, would talk about what, like, wow, can you imagine like one actor on an
yeah,
island by himself?
right.
Like not every actor could make that interesting, you know.
No,
Of course, credit to the filmmaker and such. I mean, I'm not trying to say
sure, sure.
that it's not partly Zemeckis's magic,
Right,
but
right.
yeah, so powerful. I mean, the dude literally, I mean, he lost like 60 pounds or something like that, right, for
Yeah,
this role.
he gained a lot of weight up front, and then he
Gained
lost
it,
it
then
all.
lost it, gained it, lost it, gained it. Or no,
That's
no, but
crazy.
seriously, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean, that's risky, at best,
yeah.
and probably not doctor recommended. But the lengths that some actors will go to just
Mm,
doing that kind of thing, like you think of
right,
Christian Bale with the
right.
Machinist and stuff like.
Yeah,
Now that
yeah.
was really unhealthy, I think. But but in any case, yeah, just a powerhouse performance,
Hmm.
and talk about showcasing talent. There's nobody else
Yeah,
around, it's just him.
right.
And you go through all the highs and lows with him, and you
Yeah.
really feel like, gosh, we're marooned on this island with him.
Mhm.
Just a tremendous performance. I mean, I said a lot more last week, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, definitely check out last week's podcast if you haven't, because we kind of did a deep dive on it. Yeah, I'll agree with everything you said, because it is rare that an actor can pull that off. Just hold your attention by himself for over 2 hours of basically just him surviving on this island. But yeah, everything he goes through in that movie, he just delivers on every emotional beat he needs to make it real and effective. So
Mhm.
yeah, excellent performance for sure. All right. Well, we're now on to my number one favorite Tom Hanks movie, which is Road to Perdition. This is a 2003 sort of 1930s gangster film. It's directed by Sam Mendes. And Sam Mendes is a director I really like. I like everything I've seen him do. I've seen all of his films. Um, Skyfall is one of my favorite James Bond movies ever.
Mm, yeah, that's a good one.
1917 was an
Oh yeah,
astonishing
I haven't seen that yet, but I've
World
read a
War
lot about it.
One. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's technically it all looks like one take, so it's just
yeah,
incredible
right,
achievement.
right.
So really talented, skillful director. He won an Oscar for his very first film, American Beauty, which is
Oh,
very rare that
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 was him.
happens.
Yeah, yeah.
So Road to Perdition, $80 million budget, grossed
Mm.
183 million, so kind of a success, not a huge hit by any means. But before I talk about Hanks in it, I want to talk about everyone else involved. Director of photography Conrad Hall, excellent cinematographer. He's been working since the 1960s. He's done westerns like The Professionals. He worked with Paul Newman, who he also works with in this film on Cool Hand Luke,
Mm.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He worked with Mendez on American Beauty as well. This was his last film. He
Oh,
passed away
okay.
just before or right after this was released.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, very close to the release of the film, he passed away.
Mm.
But over his career, he garnered 7 Oscar nominations and 3 wins, including Road to Perdition. It was a
Mm.
posthumous Oscar that he
Yeah.
received
Wow.
for this film. So visually, it's pretty much a perfect movie. I can't think of a better looking film. I mean, it's one of the best, I think, visually. Great visual storytelling on that level. So it just looks great. Composer Thomas Newman, I think,
Yeah.
does probably his best work here, and he's done a lot of
Mm.
great scores, but this one is so well done
Really?
on every level. It is really good. So
Mm.
that's another aspect of it I like. It is based on a graphic novel. So
Oh, is it really?
yeah,
What an
yeah.
odd thing to have be
Um,
a graphic novel.
yeah, it's strange. There's a few like this. This
Oh, yeah.
and History of Violence with Viggo
Really?
Mortensen.
Oh,
That's a
that's
graphic
funny.
novel.
Huh.
Yeah, so there's a
No.
few of these out there where they'll do just a 4 issue like limited run. If
Yeah.
a writer has a great idea, wants it,
Gotcha.
done. Max Allan Collins wrote it, and it's from DC. DC Comics one of their imprints called Paradox Press put it out. So I'd like to read it. Actually, I haven't read it yet, but I would like to read it because this movie is just superb on every level. It's so well directed, so well written.
Hmm.
Mendez, he was, at a point in his career where he kind of just wanted something narratively simple but thematically complex. So the story is about Hanks's character, Michael Sullivan, who is a hitman for the mob. And he basically gets involved in a situation where he has to go on the run with his young son, played by Tyler Hoechlin, who's now Superman on Superman and Lois, the new TV series,
Oh, really?
which is actually a pretty good series. I've watched the first season of it and thought it was pretty decent.
Hmm.
So yeah, he's now all grown up, but he's young here, probably I would say 12 or 13 years old when he did this role. As I mentioned, Paul Newman is in it, one of the great actors, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
He's an excellent actor. Daniel Craig in a pretty early role here for him before
Hmm.
Bond. Jude Law is in this as
Hmm.
well. Really good role. Stanley Tucci, who we've already
Another
mentioned,
Tucci
another
reference. Yeah.
Tucci role.
It's three today.
Jennifer Jason Lee is in this
Oh, yeah.
too. And so, really good cast, really great characters. It's a great sort of on the run road movie between this father and son who are kind of estranged. They don't really know each other, they don't really like each other that much. And it's all, like I said, 1930s Depression era, Prohibition era, kind of gangster mob movie. I would say it's my favorite gangster mob movie ever made.
Got to
It's
see
it's
Bugsy.
I suddenly see Bugsy. You're right. You're right. I'm a huge fan of Goodfellas and that
That's
stuff.
a good
But
one too. Yeah.
this one, it just hones in so specifically on this father son relationship and
Yeah.
the performance from Hanks. It's just next level. I mean,
Hmm.
such a unique role for him because it's such a different character. He's kind of a bad guy. I mean, he's a hit man. He kills
Yeah.
people. I mean, he's like an
Right.
assassin. So, but the relationship that these two characters develop, and it's dark, it's gritty, but it still has these moments of hopefulness and kind of levity throughout it as well. It's pretty intense, but it's so well done. Lots of difficult emotional scenes. I don't think any of them are overplayed. I think that's the tendency of actors is to go, kind of too far with it.
Right.
He shows some restraint here, which is great, but just the look on his face when certain lines are delivered or he does certain things
Hmm.
just conveys so much. And so
Wow.
it's a quieter role. He doesn't have a ton of dialogue in it, and it's one of those more internal roles
Okay.
that he delivers here. So it was definitely going to be in my top five, but as I started looking at him more and more, I rewatched it. I said, this is definitely going to be number one on the list because
Wow.
it just
Yeah.
it just stood step above the rest. It's one of those movies that stays with you. Like I
Hmm.
said, it has
Right.
some of
Right.
those difficult scenes to watch that just
Yeah.
really hit you and impact you in a certain way. And
Yeah.
the ending is really tough to watch, but really really good. So yeah, all in all, Road to Perdition, one of my favorites, and definitely my favorite Tom Hanks film.
I watched it in the theater and
Okay.
I remember very little about it.
Okay.
I remember it was kind of a dark film, not just in tone, but I mean
Right.
it was a lot of dark
Looking.
scenes I seem to
Right.
remember.
Yeah. It's a lot at
And
nighttime in the rain.
yeah, right. And I kind of remember that I didn't love Hanks in that role because
Okay.
I kind of was, used to him being the good guy,
Sure.
right?
Sure. I can
And
see
then
that. Yeah.
for personal reasons, the ending scene just was excruciating almost.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't really, I just kind of dismissed it. Never, I wasn't really watching it at the time, sort of objectively looking at performances and that kind of thing.
Sure.
So I
Sure.
probably should give it another chance. If it's that good of a performance, it probably is worth revisiting to see that then, because I don't remember that. I remembered
Yeah.
more just sitting back and taking in the film
Right.
as a whole.
Sure.
But yeah, I could see with that kind of different role for him, like you say, because he hasn't gotten to play that almost
Exactly.
ever.
Right. Right. And that's
Yeah.
why I think it did jump so high, is because it
Yeah.
differentiates itself from
It
everything else
gives
he's done.
yeah, it gives you that sort of well-rounded view of Hanks for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So yeah, not an easy watch, not one that I just throw on anytime by any means. It's like I said,
Kids, come on, let's watch
yeah,
this
come on, kids and wife, let's
good old
put on a
film here.
fun film. Yeah, it's not one I watch often. I've only probably seen
Yeah,
it 2 or 3 times at the most, but
gotcha.
yeah, it's just one that yeah, definitely
Great
is
performance.
great performance. Yeah,
Good to
very
know.
powerful. All right, folks. Well, that was our top 5 Tom Hanks films list. Let us know what your list is in the comments below. Be sure to leave us a comment. Also, hit the like button. That helps us a lot. If you can also subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell right next to the subscribe button so you get notifications of all our videos. We really appreciate it. I've started a new series of videos on the channel called The Real Collection, where I'm going through each movie in my collection one by one. It's going to take a while, but it's been a lot of fun kind of just showing you guys what's in the collection here. Be sure to share this on social media. The links to all of our social media accounts are in the description below. So be sure to follow us there. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and share it with your friends. You know, like I said up top, if you know of any movie fans out there who might get a kick out of this, be sure to share this with them as well. We'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to grow the channel as quickly as possible. So we appreciate all the support. Thanks again, Bert, for being here with me.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. More Tom goodness.
Absolutely. Always more Tom is always a good thing. So we'll be sure to see you guys next time. Thanks again for watching episode 21 of the Real World Podcast. Be sure to check out all of our other videos, all of our other playlists, and we'll see you next time right here on the Real World.